Hello, Chicago. Thank you for kicking off your weekend with the voice of the Chicago sports fan. Chicago Sports Podcast, Monsters of the Madhouse. Friends, as you know, we are in the fourth quarter of the 2024 NFL Draft Prep season, and you can bet the Chicago Bears War Room team is burning the midnight oil, trying to get all the winning cards in place for the team's biggest draft of the 21st century. Friends, we've got you covered with podcasting's all-pro team. We've got Mr. Chicago himself, Sean Lugo. We've got the great American DJ, Matt Cooper, program director and afternoon drive man for the Knoxville Wolf. I'm your boy from Iowa, Cleet Sue Campbell. Thank you so much for joining us, friends. We appreciate you talking sports with us. Be sure to hit that like button on YouTube and subscribe to us, the voice of the Chicago sports fan. This is Monsters of the Madhouse. Fellas, let's kick it off with the simple Bears draft truth. This segment brought to you by our friends at Underdog Fantasy Sports, the official fantasy sports partner of Chicago Sports Podcast. Guys, you know, we're sports fans, we're sportscasters. It's our job to hype things up. But I do not think, guys, it's hyperbole to say that this is simply the biggest Bears draft of the 21st century. It's a monumental draft that will determine and dictate the fortune of this, not only this front office and coaching staff, but this franchise, guys, for years to come. Are we talking the straight truth here, Sean and Coop? Is this simply the Bears' biggest draft of the last 25 years and one they just cannot afford to swing and miss on?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been stuck in purgatory, the doormat of the NFL, for how many years now? It's time to turn this around. And you know, if we get into Caleb Williams, we obviously know he's the man that's coming here. Apparently, I heard today he's wearing a navy blue suit to the draft. If that doesn't give us any insight to what's happening, but yeah, I mean, it would be nice to finally have that guy under center that could lead us into that. Lead us into the promised land once again. It's been a while.
Coop, do you have faith? You know, we're going to get to the Bears' kind of sordid draft history in a few minutes. Do you have faith that this team, this organization, this scouting team, everybody has put in the work to make sure that they score nothing but touchdowns come Thursday night?
I actually do. I feel like there's a different vibe up there since Kevin Warren has gotten there. Now, listen, Ryan Poles, same thing. I do like what he's done so far. You're always going to have misses. Of course you are. You're not going to get everything perfect. But I like what he's done so far building this team. It looks like we have a competitive team. He's made some right moves in free agency this year and in the draft over the last couple of years. I mean, it all started. Remember when his first draft, Brisker and Gordon were like, what the hell is this guy doing? Why are we going defense here? Obviously, why am I questioning? I would be a terrible GM. I mean,
that's why we're here.
Yeah, especially that's why we're here on a StreamYard podcast, man. Dob C34, what's up, man? Thanks for watching the show. But at the same time, Brisker looks like he's going to be a really good player. I mean, he is a good player. I think the sky's the limit for this guy. And I think Kevin Warren has come in, and now I think he just celebrated his year anniversary. In last week?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he has come in, and he's kind of have that structure in place. He's got that attitude. He's got that confidence that you see in him. So I do. And if you guys think about it, what's every year? What are we talking about? We're talking about the quarterback position, because as much as I like Justin Fields, and I think he went to the right place in Pittsburgh, because I think he can do very well there in that culture. You have once in a lifetime from last year and this year to go out and get the right quarterback. Yeah. And we saw that last year with CJ Stroud, and you just can't pass up on that type of player again this year. So whether that's Caleb Williams, which we all think that's going to happen, or is it one of the other quarterbacks like Daniels, or are they going to be the ones that are going to be the next CJ Stroud? I just don't know. We're going to find out, but that's what's fun about this time of the year. I'm excited.
A prospect, right?
Absolutely. Kind of exactly what you're saying, Sean. The NFL draft might be the biggest crapshoot outside of Vegas. I mean, guys can look great on paper and then just disappear. And we've seen that story play out so many times. But if you go back to the Bears draft history, 1965, Papa Bear strikes first round double gold with two legendary Hall of Famers. In the first few picks. And Gale Sailors and the late great Dick Butkus, God rest his soul. Now that draft, fellas, is on the Mount Rushmore, Sean, of the NFL's all-time greatest drafting. But what are the odds, Sean, that GM Ryan Poles can net a perennial All-Pro 1-2 punch with the Bears picks at number 1 with Caleb Williams and with the mystery man, who we still are just not sure who's going to be at number 9?
I think it's a really good chance. I like the top half of this draft and the players that could actually fall to the Bears in those slots. I mean, ideally, I'd like it to be Malik Neighbors. I don't see that happening, but I think if Joe Alt is gone, I do think they're going to be flipping down to between Rome Odunze and Brock Bowers. And for me, I heard you guys touch on this a little bit on Wednesday, but I'm in love with Brock Bowers. I love that kid. I'd love to see him here in Chicago. His athleticism, his explosiveness, the way he reminds me a lot of Travis Kelce. And his numbers, their measurables are very, very close all the way across the board. I know everyone's falling in love with the receiver. We have to have Rome Odunze. But for me, if Harrison's gone, which he probably will be, Neighbors is gone, which he probably will be, and if Alt is gone, which I don't think that Tennessee will be passing up on Alt if he's there. And I've heard, they like Bowers too, but that offensive line is complete junk. That would be an anchor for them for a very long time with some young quarterbacks that they have there. So between Bowers and Odunze, I'm Bowers all day long.
Yeah, I'd say his stock is definitely on the rise. He's been doing everything right, it seems like, over the last 6 or 7 weeks. The latest I have here, and of course, there's a million of these that we're going to be watching, but Chad Reuter of NFL.com has him going 10 to the Jets. Actually, that can change, as anything can here in the next 6 days. What do go ahead, Sean.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say today, I heard Brad Biggs this morning on The Score, and I believe it was Schrager on Good Morning Football. They both were kicking the tires, saying that the Bears were leaning towards an offensive lineman, and I know that's been kicked around on some of our shows as of late. So maybe there's a little bit more that they are looking at an offensive lineman there, or possibly trading back, especially if one of these receivers aren't there.
Yeah, Sean, let's pivot and talk about that. That's a great point you bring up, because if you're bringing in Caleb Williams, you want to bring in an offensive lineman that's going to suit his skill set and also really kind of suit him, give the kind of protection that he needs for the type of quarterback he is. Coop, if you look at it, obviously we've talked about all the holes that still are on this offensive line, even after the great pick we had last year with Darnell Wright. How important do you think at number 9 is? Do you think it makes the most sense for the Bears to get an offensive lineman that's going to be able to give Caleb Williams the protection he needs to play his game and run his offense?
Yeah, I actually talked about this on our Wednesday night show, where I don't like the way I don't love our offensive line. I think we got some key pieces there, but I mean, I still have questions at center. I don't know about our 2 guards. I mean, I love Jenkins. Listen, man, I love Jenkins. I love every time he's out there. I feel like he's our best offensive lineman in general on our entire line. But I mean, we have questions of him staying healthy. I don't know the answer to that. And I just don't know about Jones. So I think if you see that type of lineman that can fall to you at 9, or if you could trade back for it, I think you have to consider that. But I want to go to our chat here because
I was
Rajesh Omar,
Justin with a good point here.
Yeah. Rajesh was thinking what I was thinking. It says it's Dallas Turner or wide receiver, tight end. I also think Dallas Turner. If Dallas Turner is there, that is also another guy we should really consider, because you go back and watch him, man, at Bama last year.
Yeah,
I think that guy is a stud. And if you have the opportunity to put him on the line of what we're building on our defense, I think, even though our offensive line, in my opinion, is the biggest need going into this draft, if a stud player like that, they always say you always draft the best player that's available, right?
Right.
So if kind of what you were saying, if kind of what you were saying, Sean, that all the wide receivers, like, I think are going to be gone. I do think a lot of those wide receivers are going to be gone. I think it's going to be all offensive picks until the Bears get that pick at number 9. If Turner is there, I don't trade back. I don't mess around. I go pick him.
If I could touch on Dustin really quick from the chat, just wanted to run past here, about Bowers at 9 being a luxury pick. If you study Waldron's offense, he uses a lot of 12 and 13 personnel. He has a lot of tight ends. He likes 2 and 3 tight end sets. If you have Bowers, you have Komet, and you have this new move tight end just signing the kid Gerald Everett. I mean, those are the weapons that Waldron likes to run his offense. And I didn't really start thinking about this until a couple of weeks ago when I dove into his offense and saw how many times, I mean, he's used 12 and 13 personnel. And if Bowers is there, I mean, I don't see him as a wide receiver. I see him as a hybrid player. So if between him and Odunze, I really don't see that much difference. I do see a little bit more upside with Bowers personally. And I think Bowers is one of the few players that are NFL ready from day one as they walk onto the field in September.
Yeah. I agree with you on that.
Guys, you bring up a good point too. And I think is the biggest mistake that Ryan Poles could make is overthinking this about maybe just getting, I don't want to say fall in love with one guy, but maybe overthinking what is the best available player at 9. I mean, he seems like a guy for his first 2 drafts, he knows what he's won and he's gone out to get it, whether sometimes maybe he's given up too much capital for it. But Sean Coop, do you see this? Do you see him not being a guy who's going to second guess himself? He's going to go out and get the guy he believes is the best fit for both his offense, his quarterback, and his team at 9?
I do. I mean, back to what I said about the first draft that he had when he had Brisker and Gordon, when we were all like, what is this guy doing? But he really looks like he hit on some key players that we needed in that draft that year. And those guys are going to be starters on our team this year. So, this is a good question, Clete, because not only with just the Bears, but look at some of the other chatter around the league right now. I mean, we're talking about J.J. McCarthy here the last couple of weeks, who I thought was going to be a 2nd or 3rd round pick even before the college season ended. And now you have teams thinking of taking him in the 1st round. Think about what some of those GMs are doing right now. Do you think they're overthinking? I do. I think unless you put him in the right situation, and listen, I'm not going to trash him because I hope any one of these players that gets drafted in this draft goes out and has a stud career. And I hope he does too, because I like J.J. McCarthy. I like what he did in Michigan, but do I think he's a 1st round pick? I don't know the answer to that. And I don't think Ryan Poles does that. I think Ryan Poles is going into this draft knowing that, hey, look at our roster right now. Look what I've put together. We're almost there. Maybe we're not fully there. Maybe we still need another year until we're that Super Bowl caliber type of team. But if the best player is sitting there at number 9, I don't think he's going to trade back just so he can get more draft capital, because I think this draft, from everything that I keep reading and we could all discuss how much we've read about mock drafts and who's going to go where, but this is a strong draft. And if these playmakers in the 1st round, like a lot of these experts are saying they are, I don't think you trade back. If that guy's there at number 9, you just grab him and you try to build from there.
Yeah, Sean, to back up Coop's point too, I mean, we've really traded all the collateral we have. I mean, we got 4 picks total. We really kind of got to stick with what we have here right now too, because if we're trading, picks from this year, then we're just turning ourselves down the road, I would imagine.
Yeah, if I piggyback off what Coop just said a second ago with Brisker and Gordon, that first draft, we were all sitting here, like you said, like, what is he doing? This guy's had a plan. He's been cerebral. He's tore this thing down, and he's building it back up his way. And honestly, coming off of last season, the last, 6 weeks of the season, the Bears defense was number 1 in every statistical category. The guy's his plan's obviously working, and we're headed in the right direction. So, and to touch on that Dallas Turner point really quick, it's not actually a fantastic idea, because if Sweat goes down, we're in big trouble. So that's something that we definitely have to look at, and obviously hasn't been addressed to this point.
Yeah. But let's talk about what Ryan Poles has to avoid. What could be the biggest mistake, a potentially fatal mistake, that he could make with those 2 1st-round picks?
Overthinking it, we just said. Just go in there, man. You need Caleb Williams, you need a playmaker, or you need someone to rush the passer. Take the best player that's there, get it done, move on, and let's celebrate on Thursday.
Yeah.
First off, I want to say hello to a couple people in the chat. We got Ron that's checking in with us tonight. Don Bird, Detroit versus everybody. Man, people trashing on Detroit tonight.
Yeah.
The toilet uniforms from Rajneesh and Jerome, those Lions uniforms are awful. Look, I'm not going to disagree with you guys.
I'm with the fellas.
I think they look terrible too, man. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. But it's a great question, Clete, about what they can do to go wrong, because I was just kind of explaining about how powerful this draft is this year with position players, especially in the 1st round. And if you do trade back, and listen, I'm not gonna sit here and question him for what he's done, because if he thinks he's trading back and finding some more players, I'll trust him. It's just, I think if you overthink this draft and you think you could move down and grab a couple other players instead of that one impact player that can be there, like a Joe Alt that's still there, or one of the wide receivers, or a Dallas Turner that could be one of those forceful impact players for a long time, you don't want to make that mistake, because we've seen it from too many teams often over the last couple of years. But I don't think the Bears are going to do that, though. Like I said, I think I have a different feel with this regime. I have a feeling, and I got a good feel about them, that they're going to make the right moves.
I said this a bunch of times, and I'll say it again. The Bears for the last few years have lacked dogs, just straight dogs, and they have a chance to grab a couple in this draft. Yeah. They have to. Playmakers, people who change games, game breakers. We don't have them. DJ Moore, okay, we'll give you that, but we need to add to that, and please get this right.
Yeah, we beg. Us Bears fans, we beg.
Obviously, we feel comfortable that we're staying at 1-9, but we know Ryan Poles is a dealer, Sean Lugo. Mr. Chicago, what are the odds that he deals the number 9 pick? And then if he does, what would it take? Ryan Poles to his first two drafts. What would it take for Poles to move back?
Wow. I honestly, I think for him to move back, all these playmakers have to be gone. I just don't see that happening. I think he's standing pat, but I guess if someone wants to really give him a rich pot, give me a second, give me a third, maybe a pick next year, something he can't pass up and move down. As we talk about it, there's 26
receivers.
Yeah, that they're all saying could be playmakers. I love the 2 kids from Texas.
Yeah,
I know not a lot of people are talking about Xavier Legette still, but I still love that kid. That guy reminds me of Kelvin Johnson.
Yeah.
And what's the other kid? Troy Franklin. There's just so many names that you can go. So necessarily getting a playmaker, you just don't know. Roman Dunze, if we draft him at 9, he could work out to be a bust. Yeah. And you could go down to the end of the draft if you trade, and the guy that you get down there couldn't be. So again, a prospect's a prospect until they're not. And I'm personally, I'll be honest, I'm personally not as sold on a Roman Dunze as everybody else. But breakout player last year. I guess he got better every year in college, so I'll give him that. But I'm not Pac-12, baby. Pac-12, no defense.
All right. Well, gentlemen, the time for talking and speculation is done. You are both now on the clock. It's time to go on the Monsters of the Madhouse record. Matt Cooper, Sean Lugo, who will the Bears take at number 1 and number 9 on Thursday night? And then who would you take at 1 and 9 if you are running the Bears draft room?
You go first, Sean. I got to think.
Well, I'm definitely
You're on the clock.
Caleb Williams at number 1 here. For me at number 9, just going down the board, seeing what's going to be there. I said it just a few minutes ago. I'll say it again. If you live between Dunze and Bowers, and that's what we're looking, I'd go Bowers, but I would probably flip a coin between Bowers and looking at that edge because, that is a huge, huge need. And I know everyone's talking about the tackle position, man, but you really go inside the numbers for Braxton Jones. He's not that bad of a left tackle, and he's going to continue. His footwork's getting better. His hands are going to get better. He's growing into the position. So I'm probably looking at edge. I'm going Bowers if he's there. If not, I would probably go edge over a Dunze too. Yeah. I know it's probably not going to be too popular.
We're not about popularity, damn it.
Yeah. Matt Cooper, no pressure. It's just you can't miss. Who do you got at number 9? Obviously, Caleb, I would imagine.
Yeah, Caleb. I'll trade out of the number 1 pick. No, I'm just kidding. Could you imagine, man? Could you imagine if they did that? Like they traded, like they did something like a miraculous trade here. We all of our faces would be like, what? We would be like, what the hell is going on?
Chicago might start on fire.
Oh my God! I don't know how. I would just be on Twitter all night to see the reaction. First, I like Jerome says trade up 5 to get Alt or Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm not going to disagree with that. I don't think they're going to do that, though. I think
okay with that too.
I think they're staying where they're at. And then it says no. I see no trade ups too. Oh, Jesus. So I think it's going to go either way. To be clear, for me, they're going to stay at 1 and 9. I truly don't think they're going to trade back. I think these are the 2 spots they're going to be at. So Williams number 1, and then number 9. I think everything, and listen, I don't know. Ryan Poles can do something out of the ordinary. I really think they're going to be looking at offensive line. If there's somebody there, because I do believe those receivers are going to be gone. I think all three of those. I think there's a very good possibility that all three of those receivers are going to be gone before the 9 pick.
Okay.
And there's really good receivers in this draft too. That's what's cool about this draft. If we don't get one of those wide receivers, like kind of what we were talking about, go through like the top 10 list of the different receivers that they have, and I would be fine with any one of those later in the draft. I really would.
There are some great ones, particularly that will be there even after 9, as you said, Coop. It's going to be interesting. Well, we know when it comes to the Chicago Bears, nothing is certain. This is a franchise that's had many a first-round hit, many a first-round miss, and many a sleeper. Let's review the biggest Bears hits, misses, and sleepers in franchise history with our good friends at TC's World of Wonders, home of America's best online sports jersey and memorabilia deals. Folks, if you want to pre-order your Caleb Williams jersey right now with Tom, go to tcsworldofwonders.com. Tom will get you all set up. Now, fellas, history has taught us that the Bears sometimes draft like football Einsteins and sometimes draft like Charlie Sheen gone 3 sheets to Captain Morgan win. The Bears' first-round draft history is more checkered than a checkers board. Let's review the epically good, bad, and ugly of Bears draft history. Now, guys, there's a long list of Hall of Famers asking for your consideration, but who, in your opinion, is the Bears' greatest first-round pick of all time?
For me, the greatest first-round pick? Oh. Yeah. I was about ready. The funny thing is, I was about ready to say Cedric Benson for the worst. And I don't mean to talk out bad on that.
He edges out Cade McNown for you, Coop.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I was really expecting him to be the stud running back coming in.
Me too.
For the draft, I really did. I thought he was going to be a stud, and it just didn't work out. And it worked out for him in Cincinnati. So it doesn't matter. Sometimes you could go find another team and be in a better situation. So best draft. This is such a hard question to answer.
There's so many good ones. When you think
that's the first round draft pick ever.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only one for me. 1975.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. Coop, I
don't know, man.
I'm with Sean on this one. When you follow the money to a small school in Mississippi and find the greatest NFL player of all time, that's awesome. I mean, Walter Payton for me is number one with the bullet.
Oh yeah,
and then number 2, you know what? You got to look at Sid Luckman, 1939. That's a pick. I know it's a different day, a different age, but that's a pick. That's your last true franchise quarterback, and he's going to bring you four NFL titles in the 1940s.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, I like what you say. But you always bring up his name because I feel like he's still been the best quarterback in our in our Bears lifetime. And here we are in 2024, and we're still talking about him. How about Dick Buck? I mean, Dick Butkus would probably be number 1 on my list, right?
Dick Butkus.
Yeah.
Dick Butkus or Brian Urlacher. I think I'm gonna go with Dick Butkus or Brian Urlacher is one of my is either or.
I was just gonna go Brian Urlacher because when he was drafted as a safety, I remember sitting there that day like, man, we just drafted a safety at 9. I had no idea he was going to turn into one of the greatest middle linebackers in Chicago Bears history. So I give Urlacher a shout out on that one.
Yeah, it's incredible. You never know when you're going to stumble upon a Hall of Famer, or sometimes you're going to find him via free agency. We want to remind you folks, 1980 pick of the New England Patriots. I want to believe 3rd round. Finds his way to Canton this year. Steve Mongo McMichael. Finally, good old number 76 is headed to Canton, and Chicago Sports Podcast will be there. Brandon Trax Hyatt, our fearless leader, creator, executive producer, will be in Canton. Be sure to get your Hall of Fame game tickets, folks, and tickets for Mongo's induction. Going, of course, along with fellow former Bears, Julius Peppers, and the Windy City Flyer, Devin Hester. You can get your tickets for the Hall of Fame ceremony at the Hall of Fame website. And be sure to follow us as we are going to be there front and center, tent, everything set up. Brandon Trax Hyatt on his way to Canton, along with a good number of our CSP family. Keep that in mind, folks, as we get closer to induction weekend in August. All right, fellas, we've talked about the good. Let's unfortunately go to the bad. Lord knows, guys, we'll try to speed through it, but there have been some epic misses of this team in years past. Cade McClown, anybody? Not so hot Stan Thomas. And, of course, our famous burning of a 1997 first-round pick for Rick Meyer. Mr. Chicago, Sean Lugo, who's your pick for the Bears' worst first-round selection of all time?
Oh, boy, how deep of a dark hole do I want to go down for this one?
We got quite a few to choose from.
Yeah. Let's see. Where do I start? Can I start with Michael Haynes, maybe Curtis Enos?
Ooh, I forgot about him.
I mean, most of these guys, what they lasted a couple years, 3-4 years in the league, and they were gone. One of recent memory that had the preseason hype, and they did the sports science on him, and he came out like Julio Jones and was a hot bag of garbage here in Chicago. Couldn't stay healthy. Kevin White is another one.
Yeah. My heart still hurts for Kevin White. I got a kid who just, it seemed like he could step on a treadmill, Sean, and, pull it out.
He couldn't. It was the first game. He got hurt. He got hurt training camp and then missed the year, came back, and I think it was the first game of next year he broke his collarbone and missed half the year again. Yeah, that guy.
He was the Kajana Carter of Chicago for a while. Yeah, boy, oh boy. Coop, what about you? I mean, God, we've had so many nightmares in the past.
I said Cedric Benson. How about Shea McClellan? Remember the hype coming for him? I thought he was going to be a stud after the way that
he was as much, I thought, as can't miss as you could get. And
I did too.
He had like one good 3 or 4 game run in his career, and that was toast. A kid could never live up to that, and really never, I think Sean never really get a grasp of that position, despite the fact that he was the prototypical guy you're looking for.
I thought they were trying to look for the next Brian Urlacher with him, and kind of looked like he was gonna. That second year, he had a really good second year.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Coop.
Yeah, if you remember too, Boise, I believe it was Boise. I knew it was somewhere out west, but I want to say it was Boise State he was a player for, and he was so good coming out, and I thought he was going to fit right in Lovey's defense that year, and it just, to me, it was just awful, and I couldn't believe how bad he was. So I think if you start looking at the bus, but
no, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Coop.
Oh no, I'm just saying when I start thinking of the biggest bust, he's certainly there in that list.
He did give us one good memory back in, I believe it was 13 when he knocked Rodgers out. And we had to battle the backup quarterbacks.
I forgot about that. That's right. He did do that.
Senator Wallace, I think it was, versus McNown, or I think it was Josh McCown.
Well, in my mind, he redeems himself just for that legendary stat.
By the way, Dobsy and Dustin in our chat says Curtis Enos. That's another one too.
Yeah, Dustin. Yeah, that's a good point. Dobsy, as you said, mentioned it too. Don Blakemore, Dan with a great pick on Kevin White as well. It just shows that, despite all the best intentions, despite all the detailed scouting reports, how we can miss sometimes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Bears' greatest draft sleepers, because this franchise has turned coal into diamonds before, including an epic 8th-round Hall of Fame steal in 1982 by the name of Richard the Sackman Dent. Fellas, who's your pick for the Bears' greatest sleeper draft pick of all time?
If I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna go back to 83 here.
Yes.
We got Mark Bortz that was picked 13 picks after him?
Yeah.
14 picks, something like that.
I think so, yeah. 9th round. Yeah.
Yep. 11-year starter for the Bears, a couple-time Pro Bowler.
Yep.
I mean, that would to get an 11-year guard out of the 200 and some odd pick. Pretty good diamond in the rough right there.
Absolutely.
How about I was thinking Manning. We had Manning on our team. Danny Manning.
Danny Manning.
Was it Danny? I can't think of his first name right now. He was the secondary.
Yeah, Danny Manning.
Danny Manning. Yes, Danny Manning. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, Danny Manning. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I didn't know much about him at all when he was coming out, and I thought he ended up turning into a really good player
Mhm.
for us. So I thought he was a good pick.
I'll give you
Yeah.
one more. How about Doug Plank?
Dougie Plank, yes.
46 defense was named after him for his rough
Absolutely,
style, man.
inspiration right there. Absolute, Dougie, a great pick. Ah, gosh, my memory's faded on me. I'm wondering what round. Do you remember what round we got Doug in, Sean?
I want to say the 12th.
The
I want
12th,
to say
yeah.
the 12th. I might be wrong on that, but it might be. It was around there. It was really deep in the draft.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny where you find cornerstones for your franchise, sometimes at the most unlikely spots. I mean, the San Francisco 49ers have found a Super Bowl franchise quarterback with Mr. Irrelevant. Who would have thunk that? Hey, fellas, let's go move on to Caleb Williams. The man is coming to town. This segment, folks, is brought to you by our great friends at River Street Tavern in Easton, Dundee. It's the best sports dining and time of your week. And Sean, let's talk a little bit about super draft party of all draft parties. What River Street Tavern has coming up this Thursday night with their draft party, which will kick off at 6 p.m., folks, benefiting Bears Care. You've got some more information for our great audience on this, too. This is a can't miss event for any Chicago Bears fan that wants to support a wonderful cause.
Absolutely. Chicago Sports Podcast very own Kyle and I will be out at River Street. We're raffling off great prizes, like Cleet just said, raising money for Bears Care. We got an autographed Otis Wilson Super Bowl jersey. We got an Urlacher 8x10 autograph. We got a Charles Tillman 8x10 autograph. We're going to be talking football, watching the Bears win this draft. So come out and enjoy it with us. We'd really like to see you out there. It's going to be an awesome, awesome time. We got drink specials, food specials. When we got Brandon Trax holding it down south, we'll be holding it down up north. So let's get it on, man. Let's go Bears.
Absolutely.
Sean, do you think too with this draft this year with the number one pick, since we have two picks in the first 10, that you're going to see that more? I mean, we're always excited when we're talking Bears or being out for the Bears, but the crowd in general, do you think people are going to be coming out just for that excitement of the number one quarterback coming in?
I do think so. I do think so. I think that there's such this, I don't know, electricity around this pick, around the city, and everywhere you go, walking in the grocery store, you hear someone talk. I mean, it's just crazy, like just around here. And I mean, I'm in the suburbs, but everyone's so excited. I do think they're going to come out. Everyone's going to want to celebrate, have a beer, be like, maybe we got our franchise guy finally. And then everyone will sit in anticipation for number 9. I'm pretty confident in that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, Sean. I mean, I just think the roar, that's what I'm looking for. The roar when Caleb Williams' name is announced by Roger Goodell. I just think that there's the excitement to galvanize the city. And I think, we've been a city kind of at war with ourselves over the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks about, the whole soap opera of Justin Fields, who was going to be the guy. But do you really feel, I get the feeling too, Coop, that in the last 3 weeks, this city has really rallied around and really kind of believes, not every Bears fan, but I think the vast majority believe that Caleb Williams really is the guy for this franchise.
I think I think all of us as Bears fans, we all kind of knew that's where they were leaning, especially when not necessarily when the season ended, but you could kind of get that feel the first couple of weeks in, and then Justin Fields on the podcast with the St. Brown brothers. I'm like, all right, this is happening. He's getting traded. We're going to be we're going to be drafted a quarterback. So I think a lot of us know that Williams is going to be the guy, but to realize that the draft is coming up in just a couple of days, now it's real. Now we're like, okay, let's get it on here. Let's hear that little sound bite right before when you're about ready to select the draft pick that ESPN always plays, and he's going to be going number 1 overall, because then the rookie mini camps are going to start right after that. Yeah, and I think now it's like, okay, it's time to go. It's time to get him in here. It's time to get him situated. And it's time for all of us to get behind him and get behind our team, because the sky's the limit now for what this kid can do.
Yeah, great point by our good friend Dan Blakemore. And folks, please keep these comments coming. Dan's right. Outside of Super Bowl 20, it could be the most exciting event since that Super Bowl win. Sean, NFL Network insider Tom Pellerisio is reporting the Bears and Caleb Williams are so in draft lockstep, they were actually already talking contract details, which they can with the Bears having the number 1 overall pick. But as we know, Caleb is nobody's regular first-round pick, Sean. The Williams camp has sent a blunt message to the Bears that they want the team to build an investment and an infrastructure that will allow Caleb to reach his goal of chasing Tom Brady and winning Super Bowls. Now, no Bears fan is going to argue with that, but is this more proof that Caleb is the guy for the Bears? Or is this cockiness maybe kind of a reason for a buyer beware sign to be posted with this number 1 pick?
Well, you do want your quarterback to be cocky and confident, don't you? I mean, he has a certain way about himself that's rubbed some people the wrong way. And again, a prospect's a prospect. He seems to have all the tools. Watching his draft day, I was really impressed at just how easy it was, his release of the ball, how just his mechanics look so simple. His footwork was really, really nice dropping back. I know it's a pro day, no defense. So it's like playing a Pac-12 defense. But,
So true.
But at the same time, he looks the part, and I do want my quarterback to hold himself with a certain confidence and a certain cockiness. He's just got to come out now and back it up, and I'm never going to be sold on a prospect until the prospect comes out, but I'm going to be in his corner. I'm very happy that he's going to be here. And I do think he's the guy that hopefully can get it done. But again, he's got to come out. He's got to prove it. He's got to make all this hype around him worth it. I think the Bears have built a really great infrastructure around him thus far, adding Keenan Allen, having DJ Moore, you got Cole Kmet, adding Everett. Hopefully the offensive line will come together. I still do have a little faith. Nate Davis had some issues last year, with the death of his sister and his mother and all that stuff. So hopefully he can bounce back and have his head on right. And Tevin Jenkins, we already know, he's like Seiya Suzuki. He's going to miss 4 to 6. So it would be nice, but I do think they're doing the right thing. And I think they're setting him up for success as we sit right now.
Yeah. And Sean brings up a great point too. This is the toughest position in professional sports. Your quarterback's got to have a swagger. He's got to have a moxie. And do you see a Michael Jordan-esque competitive fire in Williams? Because that's what the Bears are going to need in spades, Coop, from their next quarterback.
Well, first off, I think it's hard to ever compare to Michael Jordan anything. Fire-esque play. It's kind of tough. But I see where you're going. I see where you're going.
I'm not saying he's there. I'm just saying maybe potentially that he could get that kind of.
Yeah, well, first off, when you looked at his, watching his pro day too, you could see the confidence, kind of like you were talking about too, Sean. When we watched him, and he was accurate at times, a little inaccurate. And he even said that on a couple of balls. But when he threw that deep ball, and I'm like, whoa, this is the potential of what this dude can do, and his arm and his accuracy. Yeah, it looked good. And then you see him talk afterwards how he was like assessing his entire pro day, like he was an observer, like he was on the NFL Network talking about it. And I'm like, he's like, yeah, man, I could have done this better. I could have done this a little bit better. I could have stepped this way. And I'm like, man, I love that, man. I love what he had to say about himself. I love his attitude, and I think he can bring that to the NFL level. Now it's going to be a totally different field. Going in, being a rookie quarterback, we all know how rookie quarterbacks can be. You could be the CJ Stroud of last year, even though he had some struggles at times, but looked great. Or you could see what happened with Bryce Young as the number 1 pick. Now, granted, Bryce Young had just trash all around him. He had nothing around him, and I'm not going to give him. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and not give him any blame because he played terrible. But I'm interested to see what he does this year in his second year under the new staff and on a team where they completely revamped the entire offensive line. So, it depends the type of situation, and I think Caleb Williams is coming into a really good situation with playmakers already on the wide receivers. We got some good running backs. We'll see how our offensive line holds up, and our defense is on its way. So bring that swagger, bring that confidence to this team, and I think he's going to do pretty well.
The other one thing I was thinking about him too when watching that pro day was his quick release. When that ball was there, that ball got out really fast. And obviously we just suffered through a couple of years with the guy who held the ball a little bit too long. So that's going to be something exciting to see. And I do expect that to continue. And he's got good players. He's got 2 great guys who know how to find the open spot in the field. So I think he's going to be okay. Yeah, I have no
question or no doubt at all that he's going to be NFL ready. He's going to be able to make those plays. But what is he going to need, Sean and Coop, from the Bears, from Ryan Poles, outside of number 9? Let's look at the back end of what we have. Obviously, only two picks. Thankfully, they're mid-round picks. What is he going to need from the Bears in terms of continuing to build those pieces he's going to need to be able to manage this team to the playoffs in 2024?
I think it's the depth on the offensive line.
Yeah.
I really do. I think they're well. You could also argue too the defensive line. That's why I was talking about earlier. If you can have that stud Turner there at number 9, that's a guy you go for. So I think it's on either side of the ball when it comes to depth. I don't know if our depth is there. I still have some questions. But if you can grab a couple of guys or a guy or two that you can slide in there or be a situational type of player or build around, I think that's where they go.
Yeah.
I'll agree with that too. I think the offensive line it's always been the question. It's been the question in the last couple of years. It's kind of like the Cubs bullpen. If I could, come on, man, let's get these things together. They're two important pieces and things we need to win. So, and I do agree. I don't think the depth's there, and it's football, man. These guys are going to get hurt. So hopefully some of these guys, Jerry Carter, he seems to be coming along a little bit last year. He had some solid play. He's going to be around. So hopefully these guys are developing under this regime. And I guess we're going to find out through the season coming up, huh?
Yeah, thankfully we're finally there, guys. We're on the verge. Don't forget, again, Thursday night, ladies and gentlemen, Chicago Sports Podcast has you covered. Brandon Trackside, James RoboCop Thornton, Blackberry Bears star. They will be up in Bridges Scoreboard giving you play-by-play analysis of the draft pick by pick and giving you instant reaction from Bears Nation on picks 1 and 9. And then Sean and Brandon will be at River Street Tavern in East Dundee for the draft party of the year, benefiting Bears Care. Be sure to get down there. So many great things that they have available for auction. I'm looking at that Otis Wilson just Super Bowl jersey, and I'm saying, whoa, baby. It's autographed too. So check them out. We have got covered. We will be right here with you Thursday and Friday. Trax is going to run it back Friday with additional second day coverage of the draft, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching the voice of the Chicago sports fan, Chicago Sports Podcast, Monsters of the Madhouse, folks. Hit that like button on YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and get all of our shows. And we are so excited for the great things that we're going to be bringing you here just in the next week. Trax just sent me a preview of what's coming up next month, and even bigger and better stuff, folks. All right, folks, let's move on to the elephant in the room, the aftermath of the Bulls game tonight with the Jimmy Butlerists. This segment is brought to you by Serendipity Ice Cream Parlor, where it's always delicious summer times. And as Sean said, they never drop the ball at Serendipity. They always bring their A game and give you the best ice cream in Chicagoland. Bulls, as you know, friends, just absolutely decimated tonight. Never home behind early. 112-91 the final. Things were so bad that Clint Campbell and Matt Cooper were turning on WWE SmackDown by halftime. Just find something that was a little bit less predictable of how that was going to get down. Sean Lugo, Mr. Chicago, the smoke is cleared from the Bulls' loss. What was the X factor that decided this game? How did the Bulls lose so bad when Jimmy Butler isn't suiting up for the Heat, Sean?
Well, watching that first half, it was their three-point shooting. They started off, I think 3 for 4, and then went 2 for 14 or something like that.
2 for 14.
Yeah, they had a chance too, because Miami was sitting there missing bucket after bucket, and they just Kobe White was trying to do what he did against Atlanta's soft defense, and he missed the memo about how physical and Miami's defense is, and they're not going to let you do that. He was getting banged around in the hole. They weren't getting the easy buckets that they were yesterday. Or Wednesday, excuse me.
Yeah, Coop, Sean brings up a great point. Kobe White, so spectacular Wednesday night against Atlanta, 42 points. He wasn't himself. When LaShawn said he was missing, but he was missing bad tonight.
Very bad, yeah, especially the first half. And not only that, there was something just missing with this team in general. Like, they were just off. Now, here's what we do got to say. A lot of us, I was reading a lot about this game going in, Jimmy Butler being out for the Miami Heat, which is a huge loss. That dude, when playoffs come around for them, like that guy's clutch. Why are we doubting the Miami Heat here? They do
Yeah.
this every year. It doesn't matter if Jimmy Butler's out. So they have the rookie Jaquez, 21, 22 points tonight. He looked really good.
Yeah.
Kevin
Tyler
Love, I saw
Herro.
him draining. Kevin Love draining threes. That dude's been in the league forever. Like,
Mhm.
I feel like Spoelstra has a plan in place. He puts their guys situationally where they need to be. And they execute. That's exactly what they did tonight. The Bulls had no answers. Now, I don't know if that. I mean, you could put it on everybody. You could put it on Billy Donovan. Did he have them prepared enough for this game? Were the players not prepared enough? But I felt like the Miami Heat had that game plan coming in. They executed it, and they just looked like the better team.
Yeah, and Sean, like what Coop's saying, this is what Eric Spoelstra does. He treats the regular season as like it's a preseason. Just get in the tournament. He doesn't even have to get in the playoffs. Last year, he goes from the play-in, beats us in the play-in finale, goes to the NBA Finals. This year, I think they have a puncher's chance against Boston. How with what was at stake? How do we lay an egg so badly tonight?
I know a lot of people are going to put it up. Well, maybe if Zach LaVine was there, we wouldn't have lost this game today. But like Coop just said a couple of minutes ago, man, there was definitely something missing. The way they were on Wednesday, they looked interested in the game. I wouldn't say they looked disinterested, but when things got tough, it kind of seemed like the wheels fall off. Like this team, I want to say maybe they're just not tough enough. Because, I mean, they got out-muscled by this defense today. That's for sure.
Yeah. Listen to this stat, guys. ESPN just shows Chicago tonight was trying to become the first team in 35 years to make the playoffs after not spending a single day all season above 500. Wow. If that's not a statement of how mediocre, of how mediocre Chicago Bulls basketball is right now, Coop, I don't know what is.
You know, Cleet, if you think about the season in general, so we won on Wednesday, 15 points?
Yeah.
And we got destroyed today. That's a season of a nutshell. Like they win games. Sometimes this whole season, they would go out, they would play very well. They look impressive. They would win games by a big margin, and then they would lay an egg like the next game or two. And that's what happened here the last couple of games. And I'm just like, there's nothing about this you could be surprised about. This team isn't built for the playoffs. Yeah. I don't know. I have no idea what they do next after this. I really don't.
Sean, it's the $1 million question. Like Coop says, nobody knows. They're not good. They're not bad enough to tear it down. They're not good enough to make a run. Where does this team go from here? Where can they go from here after a second straight play and loss to the Heat?
You know, that's a really, really good question. I mean, it looks like DeRozan, his contract's up at the end of this year, correct?
That's I think that is number one. I think their biggest decision, and then number two is probably what do you do with Zach? Yeah, he's coming off injury. He's unmovable, and they're still going to owe him. I think somewhere in the neighborhood of $80 million.
Yeah,
DeRozan said he wants to come back. I just don't see it. I don't know. I know he said that he said the right things, and he's a good player. Had another good year, but I feel like at this point in his career, why would you want to come back to the Bulls? I know you like the situation, you like being there, but don't you want to go play for a contender if you have that opportunity?
Well, yeah, you're 34 years old. You probably have 2 years left, don't you think, Sean, as Coop says, for him playing at this level? I know he's keeping Father Time at arm's reach, but Father Time eventually comes for everyone. You think he would want to go someplace not only warmer, but a place where he can play basketball in May?
Do the Bulls have all their draft picks this year?
I believe so. I think we're finally out of the purgatory of all the bad deals in the past. Who knows? I'm going to look that up now. But
drafting in Chicago is a nightmare. The Bears can't get it right. The Bulls can't get it right. For me, the Bulls, I hate to say you have to burn the house down again, but what else do you do? I mean, I don't know if Colby White would be a trading option, but if it was and you can get back some pieces, I just don't know if it's in this draft because you want to trade them to get pieces for this upcoming draft because this upcoming draft is awful. So,
there's not a superstar in this draft. I agree with you on that.
You don't want to rebuild off of this mess that's coming into the NBA. So.
Yeah, not only that, but fellas, listen to how bad it gets, not only for this year, but the future. We have our own first-round pick without condition this year, 2024, but starting next year, we'll owe our first-rounders with protection to the San Antonio Spurs. So if it's top 10, it's protected in 2025. If not, Oh boy, we're in bad shape. In 2026, if our pick's not top 8, it won't be protected. Same thing for 2027. This is all going back, fellas, to the DeMar DeRozan trade in 2021, where we gave up so much draft capital for DeMar that you know what? Ooh, yeah, that's not good, fellas.
So this year they get the lottery pick. So now that they're out now, they're not in the playoffs. Are they in for the lottery?
So
I believe so.
contention
Yeah.
for the lottery. They'll have I believe, the lowest amount of balls, fewest amount of balls. Now they've been able to come from that spot before. Of course, last year, they were in a spot potentially, but they lost out on that and they ended up losing the pick altogether. So, Sean, what does this say? I mean, Jerry Reinsdorf, he's not going to do anything with this front office. I don't know what you can do. I really can't. You're going to have one pick, and you're going to have little cap room. You have a franchise guy who's 34 years old coming up. It's a mess, as you said.
Well, with the injuries, at least you got Kobe White to the forefront, so you got with him. But again, I think Dosunmu is going to get better too. I still think he's young and he's still learning how to play in the league. I mean, I don't know if he's ever like a frontline starter, but I do like his game. I do. I liked it coming out of Illinois. I was actually excited when the Bulls got him. And like I said, I still think he's growing, but the rest of this team, I think Vuk is past his prime. He's working free agency. It's their only answer, I guess, and try and get some pieces here and, throw a dart at a wall. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what's going to take it. Dustin Jones, amen. Justin.
I agree with Dustin, by the way, too.
Dustin, 100%. Kobe White should be a Chicago Bull for the next 5 years minimum.
I wasn't saying trade him. Now, let's just get that clear. I'm saying you want to get out of this purgatory. You may have to trade him to get assets because you have none, and you're going to just have this guy on a last place team.
Yeah, and Sean, I agree with you on your point too. You have very little trade capital. He would be the first name that's going to be in everybody's offer sheets. But I think you're right though. Then you're kind of handcuffed on that. You're one great young talent that's looking like, and I don't want to say he's there yet, but he's looking like he's making that kind of Jimmy Butler kind of like climb that Jimmy did in about year 3 or 4 of his career. It's going to be interesting, fellas. But again,
a little side note right here. You guys know I like to gamble a lot, so I never bet on the NBA either. Ever. So when I heard Jimmy Butler was out, I was like, what? Let's throw a small cash wager. I took the Bulls tonight plus 114. I don't know what I was thinking. I figured maybe they would surprise me.
Amen, Terry H. You're absolutely right. Jerry Reinsdorf is the big part of the problem there. Fellas, no playoff basketball again is the headline for the Bulls as they lose 112-91 Ballet to the Miami Heat. Let's move on from that, folks, to some better news, fellas. How about the Cubs staying above the fire? This segment of the Chicago Sports Podcast, Monsters of the Madhouse, is brought to you by Budget Jet Cars, your trusted Chicagoland friend for finding safe, reliable, and affordable transportation. Fellas, against all odds and the unintentional best efforts of Kyle Hendricks in the bullpen, the Cubs are 11-7 at the just past the halfway point of the toughest opening month. Now, they still have dances, Coop, with the Marlins this weekend. They're going to play they got rain out today. They're going to play a doubleheader coming up here. And the Astros and Red Sox next week. Coop, what are the chances? Look at Mr. Chicago, Sean Lugo styling and profiling indeed. Coop, what are the chances this team can get out of April 5 games or better above 500?
I think they're very well. First off, if there's a worse team than the White Sox, it might be the Marlins. I would say the White Sox are the worst team in baseball. The Marlins might be the second worst team. That team sucks too. So I think they can have a good weekend here, man. At least take 2 or 3 more of these games here at Wrigley Field. And the Red Sox and the Astros are struggling, man. The Astros, they're off to a very slow start. So I think this is a good opportunity for the Cubs to continue to play well. I mean, the starting pitching. I mean, you just mentioned Kyle Hendricks. Outside of Kyle Hendricks, Taillon looked great today. So you add him in there and what Asada's done, and then you're going to eventually get Justin Steele back. The way the starting pitching is lined up right now, that's going to be the key part of this team. Now, I'm a little nervous. Happ looked like Happ, who's also off to a really good start. that hamstring. And I know he had some hamstring problems last year. That's something you don't want to see. Hopefully it's nothing too bad. And we'll keep our fingers crossed because that's a guy. Now Suzuki's out for 4 to 6 weeks. You don't want to get that guy out of the lineup either because I think that can change the entire lineup. And that's a guy that you want in there every day. But, I mean, you got to love watching this team right now. They do a lot of things right.
Yeah, they are definitely fun to watch. And Coop, good point. I'm going to correct myself. The Cubs did get that game in today. 8-3 winners over the Marlins. They're now 12-7, as Coop mentioned. Jameson Taillon coming off the injured list with one of his more impressive starts, Sean, for the Cubs. 1 run over 5 innings. You were talking about him being key last week. We talked about this Cubs rotation. If we can get consistent quality starts from him every 5th day, what will that mean for this team win-wise in the long run, Sean?
I think it's going to be huge because he's an inning eater over his career. And you got Steele coming back. I believe I read today around May 5th.
It's about 2.5 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, and, they brought him up slow in the beginning, 5 innings, 6 innings. I think this is a year where he can start getting into the 7th inning a little bit. We get him and Taillon, working into the 6th and 7th, and I would say short start because his first game back and whatnot. But I think this rotation is going to help the bullpen. And a little PSA, because I know Cubs Twitter and Facebook has been crazy over their bullpen. But I want to just let everyone know from last Friday to this Friday, their earned run average actually dropped. And as crazy as it is because of the debacle in Arizona, but they did win back-to-back 3-2 games, and the bullpen is holding up. And I do think the bullpen's only going to get stronger with Ben Brown, and possibly Assad will be going into that role as the rotation gets healthy. One of them is going to end up in there anyways.
Yeah. Great point too, Sean, too. And let's look at with those meltdowns. They came against San Diego. They came against the defending National League champion Arizona Diamondbacks. I think the bullpen, obviously it's going to be a work in progress as we're talking about. It's going to be a completely different unit, folks. Trust us by the time we get to September than it is today. But Coop, let's talk about maybe the most painful subject for all Cub fans, particularly myself, anyone who, loves this team and loves what this guy means to it. I wrote a column for CSP's website this week about, it's time for Kyle Hendricks' run as a starting pitcher for the Chicago Cubs to come to an end. He's off to the worst 4-game start of any Cubs player in the history of this franchise. In terms of what he's given up, his ERA right now is to the moon.
Over 12.
Over 12. Have we seen the last start for Kyle Hendricks in the Chicago Cubs history uniform, or do you think he might get one more?
I think I think there's a possibility he can get one more, but I think that's it for him. This kind of reminds me of Jake Arrieta, actually.
I know.
Remember Arrieta, when he went to Philadelphia? He just was never the same, and it's just all those innings that he pitched in the playoffs in the World Series. I feel like that's coming up to Hendricks now, which is sad because I love watching him, and I'm not a Cubs fan. But I would go out of my way to watch that guy pitch because he was a workhorse, man. That dude would go out there, dominate. But I think what's discouraging is when you watch him now, they are crushing him. Yeah. I mean, these hitters are crushing him. And that's showing me that he just doesn't have the full strength anymore that he once did a couple years ago, which you could imagine once you get older. Father time, as they always say, father time catches up to you, and I think that's unfortunately happening to him right now.
Yeah, great point, Coop. Sean, you talked about this last week. He's always been a low velo guy, but before he would mix speeds, he would hit those spots. He's doing none of that this year. We talk about, you and I both would love to see him, finish his, at least finish the season at Cubs uniform. He's playing on a $16.5 million team option. Could he work in the bullpen as a setup guy, being as low velocity as he is, Sean?
I would say no.
Yeah.
You want some guys coming out of there spitting fire. I mean, I guess you got Drew Smyly, but Drew Smyly's throwing with a little bit more velocity than Hendricks is right now, and he's mixing his pitches, and he's actually painting the corners. He's doing a really good job, actually.
Yeah. Let's pivot to that too. He got a save the other day. Could we be looking at maybe Drew Smyly taking over his culture for the team?
Ooh, I don't know about Hold the show right there, man. Let's not go too far.
Let's hope not.
One step too far. We are Cubs fans. Of course, we flirt with disaster, folks. That's what we do. Hey, Matt, Michael Busch is back, has finally cooled off from the volcano sledgehammer it was during his awesome start to his true rookie season, 5-homer run last week. He's tattooing every flat in the zone fastball that pitchers are throwing at him right now, Coop. You got to think a steady diet of breaking balls is in his future. Will his ability to hit breaking pitches determine whether he can make a run at NL Rookie of the Year honors and continue to be an offensive force for this team this year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is unfortunately this is stuff like this is going to happen. I mean, he was off such a great start.
Yeah,
I love this plate discipline too, and it's kind of slowed down. And I think that happens to all rookies though. Like anybody just coming in, now they're the good teams, I should say. A lot of these good teams are going to be able to pitch around him. They're going to be able to look at him, see what his weaknesses are. And he's going to have to adjust to that. And I think he will. I think you could see that in him. You could see the confidence in him. And I feel like they just – and Craig Counsell's so good at this. And this is why this is why the Cubs went out and got him. He's going to know that. He's going to put him in the right situations. And I think he's going to have the ability to get back on track.
Yeah, Sean, what do you say? I agree with Coop, too. I think the discipline is the key for him. I think we're not going to see him slide under 200 or go into like 0 for 24 or 1 for 30 slumps because he has that discipline.
No, if you watch last year, his biggest problem was pitch recognition. He wasn't picking up the ball very well. This year, I mean, he's hit. I think he hit 2 home runs off sliders, off speed pitch. And he's picking up everything right now. I don't see that changing because I agree. He's got great discipline. I mean, he's really coming on. His eyes on. He's locked in, and that's really good because I think the Cubs' first baseman as a unit slash like 241 last year. So this is a stellar improvement and one of the things that we needed to improve on. So this is pretty awesome to see. And he was a big question mark, actually. You know, him and Morel, the corners, coming into the season. And we were like, man, we got a rookie and we got a guy who is learning the position. What are we going to get here? And, I mean, Morel's improving by the day. And you know, I actually looked up Michael Busch because I didn't know too much about him. And I actually found out he was the 3-year first baseman at the University of North Carolina, and he's one of the top first basemen in the country. So, and the Dodgers were the ones that tried to convert him. So he's gonna. I think for him, you know, he had a couple of errors at the beginning of the year on the. I think he'd grow back into the position and rookie of the year. How about that?
Yeah. Love to see that. And like you said, this is a player with 27 games, major league games under his belt coming into the year. Coop, want to get your thoughts on this. You know, I think every Cub fan in Chicago would love to see Seiya Suzuki emerge as an all-star. It just, you know, do what he gives us in taunting, almost in taunts, these great stretches where he goes out and bats 400 for like, you know, week and a half, 2 weeks, but then disappears, you know, forgets how to hit the slider and the curveball and, you know, hits like 200 for a month. And then, of course, as Sean said earlier in the show, you know, then you could pencil in his regular 4 to 6 week stint on the disabled list. Is this the best that we're ever going to get from Seiya Suzuki? You know, a player who's going to give you 100, 110 good games, but never be consistent or healthy enough to give you an all-star season?
I think that's hard to say, but it does kind of start reminding you of like Eloy Jimenez, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Where you see a guy that can really hit, and because I think when Jimenez is healthy, he's a damn good hitter, and he's a good power hitter. And you see that with Suzuki when he's healthy, man. You see the real deal in that guy. You see a potential superstar.
Yeah.
But now he's got another injury here for 4 to 6 weeks, and that's just unfortunate. What sucks, and I hate seeing stuff like this happen to guys that you can see wants to be out there, that wants to put his effort in every single day, and then bam, he goes back down again, and it's awful to see. And I hope it doesn't lean that way. I hope he can come back. I hope he can get himself healthy and be to what he was here in the beginning of the year. But unfortunately, you're starting to see some small trends here that is kind of leading into that direction.
Yeah, a great analogy there with Jimenez too, Coop. Sean, you know, you said it before. It's just it seems like whenever he's ready to hit the accelerator and become an elite hitter, you know, whether it's injury or slump, Seiya Suzuki just can't put together with 2 good months together.
No, Chicago, we can't have anything nice. I mean,
This is why we can't have nice things.
you know, last year when he came back from that oblique, it took him, about a month, and then he finished the season red hot, smoking late August through September. And that's the one thing that I fear, taking this time off. You got to go back to your rehab start. So it's 4 to 6 weeks. I think it might be a little bit longer. Hopefully, he can come back quicker, but Morel's kind of fallen off the deep end. So
yeah.
I was ready to, last week talk about his whiff rate, and I'm glad we didn't get to that because it's abysmal from in 7 days.
But kind of backtracking a little bit, you brought up a great point. I think about Bush, about we've had a black hole at first since we dealt Anthony Rizzo to the Yankees a couple of years ago. Hopefully we fill that. But Morel is the kid. I mean, he's so versatile. He can do so many things. But with where we're at now, we do need him to certainly lock down both in the lineup, but also at third, because long term, without those corner spots being consistent, I just don't see this team having the offense in September to be able to grind up the 85 wins that we think they're going to need to win the NL Central.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say too, Bellinger was kind of in that mix too, to be from the outfield to first base, where you can move him there. I guess it depends what you do at the trade deadline, or who's available, or who do you think would be the best fit. But Cody Bellinger, I think, is I think he's a great defensive player.
Yeah.
You could put if you need to, and if Bush struggles, you can pull Bellinger there. Although I don't know if I'd want to take him out of the outfield either, though.
Right. Yeah. He's definitely been the glue without question. All right, gentlemen, I tell you what, it's been an honor and a privilege, folks. We have reached the pinnacle of the NFL offseason. Draft week right around the corner. Again, stay with Chicago Sports Podcast. We've got you covered. Sean and Brandon will be at River Street Tavern in East Dundee next Thursday, starting at 6 p.m. for the Bears Draft Party of the Year, benefiting the great folks over at Bears Care. Be over there for fun, for food, the best brews in all of Chicagoland, and of course those terrific raffle prizes. They've got Sean's got a truck full of them ready to go for you, and then Brandon Trax Hyatt with James RoboCop Thornton live from Bridges Scoreboard, your Northwest Indiana Chicago sports headquarters, with the Hall of Fame menu. They will have live draft coverage all Thursday night for us, folks. We have got you covered. We will also be back Monday night, Wednesday night. Coop will have the game back together. Pinky and the boys on Thursday night. We will be here for you guys. Don't go anywhere. Folks, we want to thank our great family for chiming in. Dan, everyone, Terry, holy cow, did we have some great feedback from our family tonight. Dustin Jones bringing some great stuff. Jerome, everyone, thank you so much for being here, boys. Guys, tell you what, it's really kind of like the calm before the storm. What are you guys going to do? Give us a rundown of your weekends before the biggest Bears draft of the 21st century.
I will. I'm sorry there. But yeah, this as I get ready here, actually Sunday I'm going to go see the Smokies, Tennessee Smokies, the Cubs double A affiliate. Going to go to the game on Sunday, me and my girlfriend, and then I know you guys got some awesome parties, which is I'm going to be following you guys along. I know Sean will be following along on your page. Can't wait to see all your photos. Same with Trax. But there's a Bears bar down here that's not too far from where I live. So some of the Bears fans are getting together. We're all going to get together, head over there, and at least I'll be with my fellow Chicagoans down here watching Caleb Williams go number one.
Mm-hmm. And man, Sean, you got some music in your future tomorrow.
Yeah, we're going to go check out some music, hang out, and then I'm going to break down this draft for a couple more days leading into it because it's time. I mean, I guess I know where we're going. I keep my ear to the wall and see what happens over here. A quick shout out. We lost a valued member of our Chicago Cubs family this week, Kenny Holtzman. two what do you have? Two no hitters and 69, 71.
Amen, Sean. Yeah, two no hitters with the Cubs. And then what I had forgotten, Sean, when I read Kenny's obit, he was a 4-time World Series winner, won 3 straight with the A's from 72 to 74, and then one with the Yankees in 77. Yep. You're right. One of the best pitchers, bar none, of the 1970s. And a Chicago Cubs legend without question. Yep. I believe he and Jake Arrieta are the only two Cubs, I think, with 2 no hitters. Yep. I think. Yeah, I don't think Dizzy Dean got to, but yeah, a great baseball man, a great Chicago sports legend without question. Thoughts and prayers to the whole family without question. Hey, folks, you are our family. Thank you so much for joining us. It's the thrill of our weeks for the 3 of us to talk sports with you. Please be sure to subscribe to YouTube and check out all of our shows. We are proudly brought to you by the best sponsorship team in podcasting. It's River City Tavern, Serendipity Ice Cream Parlor, Bridges Scoreboard, Budget Jet Cars, TC's World of Wonders, the Worth Stadium Club. Please patronize our great sponsors and tell them that you hear about them right here at Chicago Sports Podcast. Don't forget, folks, to go to Canton with Brandon Trax Hyatt. Chicago Sports Podcast will be there for Steve Mongo, McMichael, Devin Hester, and Julius Pepper's induction. You can get your tickets at the NFL Hall of Fame website, ladies and gentlemen. And as always, for the great American DJ, Matt Cooper, for Mr. Chicago, Sean Lugo, I'm Clint Campbell. Until we meet again, friends, keep living your life like NFL Hall of Famer Steve Mongo with McMichael, with everything you've got. Good night, Chicago, from your friends at Chicago Sports Podcast, Monsters of the Madhouse.
Peace.